Hello everybody and welcome to Astrology. We are going to tune into the planet Jupiter, and Jupiter is about to enter into the sign of Leo. It is currently in its exaltation in the sign of Cancer, but on the 1st of July, 1st of the 7th, 2026, it is going to enter the domain of the Lion King. And this is this is going to be cool, I think, on so many levels. But I just want to quickly say thank you to there's a few people who've subscribed to my channel, which I appreciate, and a lot of people sending me emails about Chinese astrology and Chinese astrological courses. So for people who don't know that I do that, that's what I do. And I also teach that, and I have my Chinese Astro School online. Plus, I got my book, Beginner's Guide to Chinese Astro. Just putting it out there, because interestingly enough, actually, Jupiter usually stays in a sign for 1 year, and when we look into the Chinese astrological zodiac, it follows a Jupiterian cycle, right? Which is a 12-year cycle. So the stems and branches circulate and come back to their pivotal point at a 12-year. Well, I think it's 11.75 something around that, but it's a Jupiterian cycle. So it's just a bit of trivia for people. I just thought I would throw that in. So Jupiter in Leo. So personally, I think Jupiter is one of the most, well, all planets are important. Jupiter is generally the planet of benevolence, but it can be malefic as well, right? And it all depends on, of course, the sect we're born under, of course, if we want to get into more technical details. So if your chart is diurnal or nocturnal, then, of course, certain planets work more so in your favor than others. And of course, it all depends on how Jupiter is expressing itself through a chart as well, which sign it actually feels comfortable in. And Jupiter in Leo is considered more peregrine, right? So that means it's neither here or there. It kind of doesn't sit uncomfortably, but doesn't sit comfortably as well. So it's kind of a little bit, what I'd say, it doesn't have as clear a direction, say, as Jupiter in Sagittarius, obviously, or in its exaltation Cancer, which it has been for the last year. So anyway, so Leo represents romance, play, children, celebrities, this kind of thing, drama, acting, being more out there on the public stage, really showing yourself out into the world. It seeks a lot of attention, this kind of thing. I think a lot of people who've, dabbled in a little bit of astrology have always come across the Leo, or someone with a lot of planets in Leo, which can be pretty next level. But I think also, another very interesting thing, which I'll talk about, because I'll talk about some of the planetary aspects as well, because Pluto is going to be in opposition. And then I think later on during the Jupiterian cycle in Leo, it's going to make a trine to Saturn, which I think is really important, because that's going to ground the Jupiterian energy. And I think Saturn and Jupiter do kind of go well together, because, it's going to just hold you back from being so impulsive, which Jupiter can, you can get into trouble, right? When you expand and want to expand yourself, and over expansion and things like this. So Saturn's going to have that ability to ground you and pull you back and make you a little bit more reserved, a little bit conservative, And another very, very interesting thing is, which Chiron is going to enter Taurus at the same time as Jupiter goes into Leo. So, and I'll talk a little bit about this, and I'm going to go through the 12 rising signs just briefly for people as well. And we'll get into it, because I think Jupiter as a planet, it guides us into the future. So it motivates us for future growth, development. And it's one of those planets, right, that is quite powerful in that. So wherever Jupiter is in our chart, Jupiter gives us the luck, so to speak, or the real energy for us to, it's where we've got the potential to expand ourselves in a chart for growth. It's where we're going to receive the most growth, I would say, in the area of our birth natal chart. But one of the interesting things about Jupiter, really, when it's in the sign of Leo, right, then when we talk about growth and how we grow and develop, then it's going to seek to grow and improve oneself through creativity, freely expressing one's exuberant vitality, and through supportive encouragement from others, right? So this expansiveness, because Leo's very proud, so the expansiveness can be colored with pride and an urge for recognition, and intuitively understands people's needs for attention and self-confidence, right? So, so our self-confidence can really pick up, right, as Jupiter enters the sign of Leo at this time. So, and also Jupiter's where we kind of seek trust and we have faith, because Jupiter really rules that, because it does have a religious kind of a signature to the qualities of this planet. So there can be trust in a higher order or faith in a higher order that can, and in the sign of Leo, it can be hindered by egotism, arrogance, or a domineering attitude. But it usually will give us a kind of innate, innate faith in life. It's going to give us a lot of courage, right? Jupiter's expansive. It's where we like to take we can have a lot of courage when we've got a lot of Jupiterian aspects or Jupiterian energy in our chart. But in the sign of Leo, right, there's a need to act impressively or be recognized by others to lead to confidence in self. So it has a well-developed sense of showmanship and flair in this sign. So, and Jupiter's always going to express itself through drama, and it's going to feel blessed to play our role in life or our destiny. And sometimes there can be an exaggerated kind of excessive faith in one's importance, in one's role in life as well. So these are kind of a little bit of the psychological or personality kind of traits that Jupiter will, how it's going to play out. But generally, as a planet, Jupiter was always like how one seeks to grow, improve oneself, and experience trust in life. And now, and especially for the Piscean ascendant and the Sagittarius ascendant, because you're going to be ruled by Jupiter. So this is going to really be important for you guys, because you're following what Jupiter is actually going to be doing during this time, right? It's more important for you guys because this is a lot of your chart. Jupiter's actually steering the ship of your destiny. So we can see here, I've got the chart here of Jupiter. For those who aren't familiar with Astro, a lot of people are, but I just put the natal chart here. We can just see Jupiter up around here in the sign of Leo. And then, of course, we've got another really key thing going on with Chiron entering Taurus, which is going to be squaring, actually. I'll talk a little bit about that later. But then, of course, also another thing we need to consider with Jupiter as well is that there's going to be a retrograde on the 13th of December, which is going to last till about April the 13th of 2027 when it goes direct again. So, and this will be important for the Piscean and Sag rising, But so usually Jupiter retrograde, things are going to, it's going to get harder to get the goods. So make the most of the period beforehand. But when Jupiter does go retrograde, right, it does not mean does not suggest that the opportunities are less, but it kind of rearranges opportunities that can come more so in unconventional ways. So when you look at when Jupiter goes retrograde in those months, it's not kind of doom and gloom, but things are going to operate not in their normal ways. So opportunities can come from non kind of standard packages, or however it is they're going to manifest for you. It's not going to be how you think they will come. So there's going to be a need to let go of opportunities and kind of try and make the most of them yourself. Because I think that, that trine with Saturn in Aries and, Jupiter's in Leo. So there's fire elements going on here, which are really kind of dominating some of the aspects. And I think I think I've mentioned in previous videos, we're in the age of the entrepreneur. So this is a time where that fire element comes in with these pioneering type energies, which I think can come our ways. But I think the opportunities, we've got to really kind of think outside the box a little bit and try and create them in our own kind of unique ways. But there can be, because Jupiter rules religion, right? So in the retrograde periods, there can be rebellion to orthodox religion and philosophies as well. And because it rules philosophy, people can prefer kind of self-made or like an individualistic brand of philosophy, if that's the right word. But there can be a greater tendency when Jupiter's retrograde, right, to search for our own beliefs, right? And so we can find beliefs that usually come outside the cultural norms. So this is when we need to open our minds a little bit and think outside the box. So, but when Jupiter's retrograde, and when it does go retrograde as well, we can question deeply at this time in order to find a sustaining faith of some kind. So this is really cool, because I think when the deeper questions around life can really come up. And so this potentially can happen at this time when the Jupiter's retrograde. Now, I mentioned Chiron going into Taurus, and I think this is going to be interesting because Chiron, there's going to be, put it this way, Jupiter's expansion, Chiron's kind of healing or wounding. So there's going to be healing as we grow and expand at this time. And what I find really, really interesting, because what's been going on when I look at planetary cycles and things like this, that the last time Chiron actually was in Taurus, really kind of, it ingressed back in 1926. And at this time, right, this is just before the, up until, because Chiron has a weird orbit and it stays in signs certain longer than others. Most of the time it stays quite in Aries, actually the longest. That's why, for those of you know Astro and they're always looking at charts, Chiron's most of the time in Aries. But the last time Chiron entered Taurus, from my calculation backwards, was the 25th of May 1926, right? And the Great Depression started in 1929, went for a 10-year period. But I find this interesting because Taurus rules banking, it rules finance, things like this. And so there can be woundings to economies at this time. And issues to do with finance, Taurus rules banks. So there's going to be things that can happen on this level, and we can already see it playing out. But I think it's going to really play out at this time, right? So So wherever it is, when I go through the 12 signs, I'll mention briefly the Chiron square to Jupiter and what potentially people can expect from that. But so there's going to be this healing as we grow and expand. So, and healing is always about growth anyway, but on this difficult angle to Jupiter, I think it's going to really be quite prominent, and being in Leo, that could, can really affect our egos, as well. So this is just another thing I'd throw in there, because with the Taurus in Chiron, it's a interesting how around about that time, just before the depression kicked off, it entered that sign. Now we also have another monumental aspect of Jupiter in opposition to Pluto. So, and we all know Pluto ingressed into Aquarius 2023. I did a video on this, if those guys who want to listen to if you guys want to listen to that, on the dark side of Aquarius and all that kind of stuff. So this can indicate, God, I mean, you can overexpand yourself a lot with Pluto's quite strong energy, but there could be power struggles. There, a lot of scandals can come out, which they already are. A lot of people can see this, but there, when Jupiter's in contact with Pluto, you can overdo things with you can overextend yourself, or you can overinvest, because Pluto is actually the higher octave of Venus in terms of when it comes to wealth, because Pluto actually does rule it. And Jupiter Pluto aspects can indicate the millionaires aspect, or extremely wealthy people can have this aspect. That's one aspect for indicating of wealth. There's many others, but this is one of the ones. But the opposition, usually probably the most difficult aspects to play out on a psychological level, because it's usually we're dealing with projections and swinging back and forth. But so the shadow side of this can be definitely inflation, drama, and overexpansion. So this is one thing we need to be mindful of during this aspect. And another thing I would just like to say as well, which I mentioned before, the Jupiter trine Saturn. So Jupiter trining Saturn can be a very good time for building things with discipline. And in this harmonious aspect, right, it's going to really, I mean, this doesn't actually, the trine aspect doesn't happen straight away, but as Jupiter moves through this sign, it will connect with Saturn. I can't remember the exact timing of that, but anyway, but what it's going to do is Saturn will help Jupiter ground and just be slow, steady expansion, and will help people to have a lot of patience with what they want to create, right? Because Jupiter in Leo is extremely creative. Leo's a very creative sign. People want to build, and they want to do it, in an expansive way. But Saturn will make sure we kind of don't overextend and pull us back, and give us the discipline required to build things over time, which is important. And I think this is a very good one for entrepreneurs as well. So it's going to give us that patience to not overextend, not try and cut corners, jump in too quickly. Saturn will hold us back and go, okay, let's just make sure we do this right. So once we've got the foundation right, then everything else will come into play. So Aries rising will have Jupiter transiting the 5th house, which is the house of children, creativity, risk-taking, gambling. Aries rising needs to be careful. If you're into gambling, really don't overextend yourself with that Pluto opposition, because you can get yourself into a lot of trouble. But this is kind of going to be a time, or this year, where you'll find your spark and passion. Some will have children, because this is a house of children, and it's a good time for romance, and creative projects could flourish during this time. There'll be more creativity and joy. So don't party too hard, right? And burn yourself out. But it's a good time to let the world know who you are, and don't be afraid to really show it and take risks and be confident within yourself. And getting back to the gambling and things like this, I'd be very mindful of this. The reason why I did too is because Chiron is in your second house in Taurus, squaring Jupiter in the fifth. So you guys just need to be mindful of this. So Taurus rising is going to be having Jupiter into the fourth house in Leo. Now, the fourth house is all about the home, the ancestry, and the home base. So people can be looking to make a purchase at this time as Jupiter enters Leo in this house, or you might want to look more for a house that has a lot more room and space, because usually with Jupiter in this, when it goes through the fourth house, people really want more time, and they want more space around there. And it can be a good time for supportive growth in the home environment. Jupiter's tied to the 8th house as well in Sagittarius, so some people may do get some psychological growth exploring, because Jupiter's exploring their ancestral roots at this time. Jupiter's also squared a Chiron in the first, so there can be growing pains at this time, right? There can be some woundings around how you present yourself to the world at this time. There can be maybe some wounds that can come up around security or security around the home. But relocation can definitely be on the cards with this aspect. So I'd just say, if you're going to look to buy or purchase a house, just be careful and watch the price, as inflation is kind of going off the Richter scales all around the world at the moment. But prices can get really inflated, particularly for you guys as Jupiter's in the fourth. But this transit can increase self-confidence at this time. And I'd also say that you can handle truths about yourself at this time, which you've normally kind of been reluctant to face as well. And I think for the Taurus risings is the access, the Sag rules, because Jupiter rules Sagittarius, it rules Pisces, and these houses, the 8th house and the 12th house, and Jupiter entering the 4th house, these are traditionally the kind of the water houses, but they can they're deeply connected to our psyches. So it can be a really optimistic time at this point to really explore this with Jupiter in this, and have the courage and faith to really examine a lot of your own psychological patterns. So Gemini rising is going to be having Jupiter enter the 3rd house. And the 3rd house rules siblings, it rules the mind, travel, short courses, short distance travel, communications of all kinds. It's actually real, and it's one of the houses of divination, actually, so people can have a strong interest in the divination arts. But either way, when Jupiter enters this house, it's going to expand the mind. People want to go to really, it's a mind expanding time. Relationships with siblings can improve, and neighbors as well, if there's been some issues going on. But Jupiter rules your 7th house, because Sagittarius is on the cusp of there. So relationships which will help with communications with partner, and communication breakthroughs can happen as well, particularly in the work arena, because you guys have got Pisces on the which rules the 10th house. So using the internet, blogs, podcasts, and things like this can expand your message with your career, and which is critical for if you're entrepreneurial. You know, we all need to use these kind of means of communication. But the trine to Saturn in the 11th can grow your own communities, or you will connect with communities with Saturn there that are quite serious. Some serious groups that can really help you achieve what you need to achieve. And So any content creation that you're coming up with will get some traction, I think, at the moment. Chiron in square to Jupiter, Chiron's in the 12th for you guys. The wounding can be unseen, or the wounding can be deeply unconscious at this time, right? Which can affect your kind of psyches a little bit. So it can be a good time actually with Chiron going through the 12th to explore things like primal therapy, where you use your body to get in, understand the shadow of the psyche, to bring up the unconscious feelings, because the body is the shadow, and when we do that kind of feeling work, can really help process that. So the wounds that can emerge can be difficult to navigate at this time, particularly with Chiron in the 12th. Cancer rising is going to be having Jupiter in the second house, right? So this can be pretty big, because your bank account could increase at this time, as well as your confidence and self-esteem. This is a good time when Jupiter comes through here. New income streams can come through creation, and what you value, because the second house is about what you value or your own values, can really expand some way in this time. Building skills with Saturn in the 10th will expand income, right? And Jupiter square Chiron in the 11th can bring up a wounding around friends or feelings that you don't belong, and self-worth issues can really come up at this time, right? But I think overall with Jupiter in the second can really help us really encourage our self and our self-value, and really want to expand that as well. So, but having it is square to Chiron in the 11th, we may feel like a bit of a little bit sensitive when Chiron enters that house of groups and who we're actually really mingling with, and we may feel like a bit of an outsider. So those kind of issues may just come up around that. The Leo rising is going to be having Jupiter happen in the first house. So this is going to kind of be in a new 12-year cycle for you guys, really kind of kicks off, right? And when Jupiter really comes across that ascendant, depending on what degree you are, I find it a very, very good time to be a good time, if you know the timing, to launch something. Because I noticed myself one time when I had Jupiter transiting the ascendant, which I didn't think about at the time. I put out a reel, and I'm not really into the reels and the social media on Instagram and things like this, but I remember I did one reel at that time, and Jupiter was transiting right on my ascendant. I think it just clicked over, and it went viral, this reel. So, but I think it is a good time to really for growth and expansion through self, and you just got to watch your weight gain right at this time, because Jupiter can expand the waist. Now, Jupiter for you guys is going to be in opposition to Pluto in the 7th, right? Now, this is going to be for people who are bankrupt internally and live on the surface and are superficial. Need to probably be a little bit careful about getting into relationships, because when Pluto enters the 7th, there's a high chance you're going to attract a creature. So it can reveal hidden aspects in a relationship, submersive aspects, manipulation and controlling issues. And the reason I point this out is because most people haven't leveled up psychologically. And I'm not saying in Pluto going through the 7th is actually a negative thing. It could indicate a very transformational and powerful relationship, or you could meet someone who is quite deep and intense and wants to grow and evolve with you. But I know most people don't operate on that level, so you just need to be very, very careful. That's all I would say with Pluto going through the 7th. I don't think it's doom and gloom. I think it's actually a good thing, but I'm just worrying because when Jupiter's in opposition to this, you just got to watch your projections and and make sure you really know people and who they are as best you can, right? So So Jupiter in the first, you can have it's a new identity chapter coming your way. And squaring Chiron in the 10th house of career can reveal changes in terms of, because Chiron's the teacher, right? So there can be mentoring roles that can come your way, teaching roles, alternatives. You may get really into some alternative healing and things like this, because Chiron covered everything else, so many things, right? He was a centaur, obviously, but he was a herbalist, an astrologer, a counselor, a hunter. There's so many things, right? Everyone went to Chiron for healing, but they couldn't heal his own wound. But I think when Chiron enters the 10th too, you can be very sensitive to how you're perceived in the public and your public status out in the world. So it can be a sensitive time to with your work, but then obviously it can also be, if you paid your dues, and depending on what's going on with your chart, then it can be a time of when you can get offered to mentor and do some teaching of some kind. Now, Jupiter rules the 5th house of creativity and children as well. So that can indicate wanting to, children, physical children can come your way if this is the case. So that's it for the Leo rising. Now for Virgo rising, Jupiter's going to be in the 12th house. So Jupiter likes being in this house because it's what they consider, traditionally it's ruled by Pisces. So Pisces, it rules this house. It's the end, it's the last house. And the 12th house rules obviously rest, sleep, recuperation, the unconscious, and these kind of things. It's that kind of house, the hidden side of things, right? So, and Jupiter, the Jupiter placement here can be like having a guardian angel, right? Like a protector, a guide of some kind, or they consider the Jupiter in this house a guardian angel. You've got a protector of some kind because Jupiter's generally considered benevolent. But so this can be a year for you guys of inner transformation. And there's placements through the 4th and the 7th. So you guys have got Sagittarius connecting to the 4th house and Pisces on the 7th house. So a situation or relationship situation could come to an end, particularly. And there can be, but it can be a real expansive opportunities actually at this time. I think alone time for you guys at this time is going to be really healing and important. And I think you can, a lot of hidden opportunities can come your way from being behind the scenes. So if you feel like you need to be in your own space and create and things like this, it's a really, really good time to do this at this point in time. And the 12th house is a very interesting house. And I think Jupiter in here can give us a lot of faith and trust in our own psyches to be able to do our own inner work. And this is what I would say the Virgo rising needs to focus on at this time. So Libra rising is going to have Jupiter in the 11th, which is the house of wish fulfillment. It's a house of community, socializing, networking. So communities are really going to expand. And so there's going to be big dreams, big visions, big expansive visions and your social circles will expand, and there's going to be a good year for networking, podcasts, website and blogs because Jupiter's connected to Sag in the 3rd house. And it's also connected to the 6th house with Pisces on the cusp as well. But very good year for networking and doing your blogs, your writing and stuff like that. Now, Chiron squaring Jupiter in the 8th house, there can be some wounds about getting accepted by friends as well. So it's going to be a funny time around that because, Chiron in the 8th, there can be wounds that are deep within our psyches. And because it's going to be squaring Jupiter in that house, then there can be issues that can come up around that. So, but I'd say, having said that, though, friends can really benefit you now and play an important role in your life, right? There's going to be a little bit of luck, and you may even start probably socializing more with there can be some wealthy people, right? You may associate with Jupiter in this house, but communities will uplift you in some way. And you can really meet some larger than life characters actually with Jupiter going through the 11th, particularly in Leo, right? So yeah, expect some big life kind of characters coming your way. So Scorpio rising will be having Jupiter in Leo in the 10th house, which so this house draws attention to career, profession, public status, recognition, your reputation out in the world, and career expansion. The world will see more of you, right? Like your career could really blow up at this time. So Jupiter rules your second house and the fifth house, so indicating a career breakthrough with more recognition. Right, second house is to do with money and wealth, and the fifth house has a lot to do with the creativity. But the increase in money can go from being there can be a lot of increase in the wealth because of Jupiter's connection, right, to the second house. But for those who aren't hooked up with anyone, you can go from being single to getting connected, and just because of the Jupiter connection to the fifth house. And of course, Jupiter in the 10th, right, can indicate marriage as well. So that's also on the cards. But Chiron squared Jupiter, it's squaring Jupiter in the 4th house. Not the 4th house, what am I saying? 7th house. Because Taurus is on the cusp of the 7th. So there can be a wound in relationship, actually, that can affect your work at this time, right? And that's just not a personal, intimate wounding, and that can be with professionals and colleagues and things like this. So, or possibly maybe there's some deeper issues that are coming up in your relationships that can potentially, obviously, may affect you at this time. But then also, it can also be the wounding around authority or taking authority with Jupiter, that Jupiter square. But the Pluto opposition to Jupiter can indicate transformations at home affecting your career as well. And there could also be renovations going on around the home as well. There could be a lot of things going on for you guys with that Pluto-Jupiter opposite, and particularly that axis of the 10th and the 4th house, because the 4th house really affects the home. So renovations may have to move and things like this. So the Sag rising will have Jupiter and Leo in the 9th house. So your whole perspective on life can pretty much change tremendously at this time. It's a good time if you guys have been writing or really want something to be published, then it's a good time to get it out. There can be travel. The 9th house rules, it's a house of open knowledge. So it rules kind of spirituality, philosophy, publishing, traveling, foreign lands, this kind of thing, higher education, that kind of stuff. So Jupiter is the lord of your chart too. So it's changing signs, which means the area of your focus will be in the new place, which is going to be particularly in this house, right? So Jupiter obviously rules your first, which is you, the Sag, and the 4th with Pisces on the cusp as well. So this can be another potential move placement, or potentially want to move to a foreign land. Or you may have to move away for school or getting educated at this time too. So, and the square to Chiron in the 6th can indicate maybe health, could be affecting you, particularly from your work and daily routines. There could be problems with your pets also, which may affect your ability actually to travel if you want to travel. But the main effect of Jupiter, I think, in the 9th house for you guys is going to be your consciousness is really, really going to expand over this period of time. And I think that's a really, really cool, optimistic time for you guys in terms of really digging into those philosophical subjects that can really, really expand your mind. It's an exciting time. So Capricorn rising is going to be having Jupiter in Leo in the 8th house, one of the deepest houses that rules joint resources, finances, taxes, inheritance, death, this kind of thing. It's a deep psychological house. And traditionally it indicates inheritance, expansion of investments, which will with Jupiter in there. That can be a good time to enter a relationship where you have to pull resources together, because the 8th house is about pooling and joining with another. It's a good time to request a loan from a bank. For people who actually need, to put it out there, they need more to help expand themselves, to expand their projects or whatever it is you're doing, then it's a good time to pitch it to the bank. But I just watch debts and investments at this time as well. You may need, excuse me, you may be actually paying more, or watch the debt, because things can inflate and get expanded as well. So just pay attention to what you invest in and make sure it's not going to end up costing you more than what it is. But the Jupiter rules your 12th house as well, because you've got Sagittarius and on the 12th house cusp. So this is a positive time for therapy and healing the subconscious at this time. And you may seek rest and recuperation as well, particularly in foreign lands. But the 8th house too with Jupiter there, right? Because Jupiter's about teaching and possibly taking classes as well. So this house actually rules the occult and metaphysical. So you may take an interest in that side of things as well. And you've got Pisces on the cusp of the 3rd house as well. So you may even actually go even deeper and get right into the divination arts and things like this. So, but you've also got Chiron square the 5th, which can be a time for healing to do with children. So a lot of healing or wounding can come up around potentially maybe your own inner child issues, but also maybe on a more on another level with your children. There could be some wounds that need to be addressed and need to be healed at this time, and possibly even issues with conception and things like this, if you want to conceive and things like that, with Chiron going through that house. And me as a practitioner, I've seen a lot of interesting things with Chiron going in the 5th, particularly women, and particularly the Black Moon Lilith in terms of fertility and conception. So yeah, it's interesting what can happen there. So Aquarius rising are going to have Jupiter in Leo in the 7th house, because Leo's in opposite Aquarius, in that kind of the opposite sign, right? So you'll be having it in the 7th, and so this is a house obviously of relationships, professional, personal. It can be consultants, lawyers, doctors, this kind of thing, astrologers, all these kind of things, counselors. So you encounter people that will help you out at this time. So, and for those that are looking for a relationship and things like this, right, you could end up in a relationship with a foreigner or become more interested in foreign people as Jupiter's transiting this house. Intimate relationships will expand your consciousness at this time. You've got Pluto in opposition to the 1st, right? So Pluto in the 1st is, it's real kind of transformation of self. You don't look at the world at face value anymore, especially when it's moving and hovers back and forth over the ascendant. You guys would have been going through some really, really deep stuff, I'd say, over the last few years, with Jupiter retrograding back and forth over that ascendant, depending on what degree your ascendant is. But it's not an easy time, but it is probably a necessary one for transformation of self. And so you're going to be, it's going to be pretty dynamic for you guys. So you've also got Pisces on the cusp of the 2nd, and Sag on the cusp of the 11th. So which means that Jupiter will rules expanding your social circles in connection with making money. So this can be, you can actually meet wealthy people within groups at this point in time, which can assist you in helping with your finances and making money. So you guys have got Chiron square in the 4th house, which can mean that family and home issues can arise in connection with your personal relationships. And somehow your home life could be affecting a relationship, or maybe your personal relationship, or there's something to do with home and family that can connect your relationships just at this time that may need some healing. So Pisces rising will be having this Jupiter in Leo in the 6th house. So the 6th house is about health, daily routines, service, pets, employment. So, and the Lord of your chart is moved into the 6th. So this becomes extra important for you guys. And I think Jupiter in this chart will just say that your daily routines are supported by what your own well-being at this time, right? So this transit indicates it's a good one for, it's a few other things you need to look at for health, but generally this will be a good one. Mind you, you're going to have Pluto in opposition, which I'll talk about in a sec, but so it can be a good time to give the body strength and vitality. You need to be careful of gaining weight, so don't overindulge, don't overeat and things like this, right? Because Jupiter, you can be more prone to putting on weight. Why? Because Jupiter expands things. But there can be big changes in daily routines, and you have Sagittarius on the cusp of the 10th house, which makes work and career. So it's a good time actually for you guys if you've been unemployed, right? Because the 6th house is about employment. So there can be ample opportunities for you guys to find work if you need it. And so it's a good time to find jobs. Now, Chiron squaring Jupiter from the 3rd house can mean that I would say, because the 3rd house is quite mental, so Chiron's going to bring out a wound of some kind within your mind, maybe a way you think, and in connection to squaring Jupiter in the 6th, which is the house of health, I would say that one of the best things would be to do is move your body, right? Which will help balance the mind. So you may feel more sensitive with communicating your ideas at this time, right? Because Chiron's going to enhance the sensitivity around that, of speaking your mind. But you can have work-related wounds as well, which can come up as well, like I said before. And this can be in connection to work because of the connection to the work environment. The connection with the mind, which the 3rd house does have. Now, Pluto in opposition to Jupiter, because Pluto is going to be in your 12th house, right? So there's going to be a lot of skeletons coming out of the closet. So the wound, the findings of the feelings can be deep, which can affect the heart and upper back actually if aren't properly processed, right? Because Leo rules these things. It rules the microcirculation, right? Or what they call the low. It has a connection with the low in the blood, because Jupiter does have a connection with the blood from medical astrology. And but it does rule the heart as well, and as the upper back. So make sure you really process your emotions well. And, Pluto going through the 12th house, right, can be a really good time to really do that digging into the shadow. And it's a good time to honor that transit as Pluto goes through there. But just be careful not to overwork, right, as well at this time as well, because this is really important. And Pluto can also give, that's what I was trying to say, sorry. Pluto, just be careful not to overwork, because Pluto can give actually a very strong unconscious drive to achieve. And you can really, I mean, Pluto can really charge things up on that level in opposition to Jupiter, is particularly there because you want to expand and really go hard with what it is you're doing at work. So just there's potential for burnout as well. So you just got to really pay attention to that. Anyway, so that's my take on Jupiter in Leo, and I possibly will do a talk on Chiron going into Taurus because I think that's really important. I'll see what I can do with my time on that level, and we will see you guys in the next video. Thank you for listening.